give us an opportunity to really extract this potential we have to build our economy through bioeconomy. And interestingly, bioeconomy covers the whole value chain. It's not like the other technological approach that picks a specific section of the problem. The bioeconomy rather covers or encompasses everything from across the whole value chain for technological advancement. So this will give us to address issues from end to end, and also extract maximum benefit out of it. So for that we need knowledge and the skill. So those knowledge and the skills would really help us to extract the best out of the waste where we are generating. So as the nation in the region, they are fully based on agriculture. That will give us an opportunity to extract maximum out of the biomass and bioproduct we have in the region. Over to you, Dr. Saliu.
Thank you for this excellent remark. Dr. Mutuku, you work in West Africa on transboundary plant disease. How did you come up with that particular area? How do you apply bioeconomy in that field?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm very, very happy to be participating in this panel with ladies and gentlemen who have achieved very illustrious careers. And I'm very pleased for the invitation I received from BioInnovate to participate in this panel. Now, West Africa is not as connected as Eastern Africa in terms of scientific research and innovation. Mm-hmm. So the space we occupy as WEV, connecting 10 countries across Central Africa and West Africa, all the way from DRC to Sierra Leone, is an important space when you think about creating a platform for scientific research and innovation. And our specific focus is on transboundary plant pathogens. So just from that title alone, it suggests that these pathogens are in move. They are moving from one region to another. And pathogens do not respect borders.
They are like pests, yeah.
Yes. For example, cassava brown streak started somewhere in the coastal regions of Tanzania, and now it's in Uganda, it's in Kenya, it's in DRC. So these are the type of things that we are talking about. But more specifically to your question, I think bioeconomy research is an opportunity for us to generate transformative change under biotechnology, bioecology, and bioresources. And it's also an opportunity for us, like Prof was talking about, to utilize this change to motivate serious structural changes. And like you were saying, these are things that can be customized to fit specific countries, specific regions, and actually now in our case, thinking about more generally about Africa as a continent. Plus, it's also an excellent opportunity to think about alternative ways of doing things. We do not need, like the Prof was saying, to copy and paste what has been done before. In fact, there are some ways we can think about the traditional way of doing things as destructive. Now we can think about the effects of climate change and all these things. And what brought about these climate variations. Then we can also use this as an opportunity to align our regulations to the needs of innovation pipelines. This is what we were discussing yesterday. And, it's imperative that policymakers design policies that are helping to push innovation. Plus, of course, it's an opportunity to create a large pool of good jobs that our young people can benefit from.
Thank you very much. I think the answers that I've got so far are satisfactory. But I want to say that these were the same motivation that also prompted the development of other technologies. Why bioeconomy is going to do better than the previous technology that already exists that are not actually flying on the continent. So that's the question for you, actually.
Well, because now we have an opportunity, for example, to develop and improve new intellectual properties.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday we got a good overview about the large biodiversity that exists within the continent, and some of those resources are completely untapped. So it's likely that we are going to discover things that nobody else knows about. And there,
Is that therefore more about ownership?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So maybe a question to Dr. Macrae. You listed several types of models of bioeconomy that have been implemented in New Zealand, going from you call it the shelves of biomass to the use of waste. So how did you come to those particular subjects or areas? Basically, my question is about the priority. Where should we focus on in terms of bioeconomy research in Africa?
Well, actually, don't assume they're all embedded in New Zealand, all right? It's been a battle for a very, very long time. And some things are only just happening now. 10 years ago, many people wouldn't even listen. So don't assume New Zealand's got it all made. But New Zealand's, like many parts of Africa, is actually a place of lots of land and many, many different environments, and the oceans, huge amount of ocean around New Zealand. And so it's really got the opportunity of a bio base. And that's what I think Africa's got, because you don't have to do the same things as the current Western industrialized world. I looked, for example, I was traveling through Vanuatu, a bunch of islands in the Pacific Islands. And when you go to the different islands, I saw two things that they didn't even go through the Industrial Revolution. They just went over from farming for themselves right across to cell phones. They never had any telephones or anything else in the middle. They just went straight to cell phones from talking to people straight. And then the other one was they never had any intermediate power. They had wood fire burning for getting heating and cooking and light, and they jumped straight to solar power. And solar panels were traded in the markets. So I think Africa has the chance to say, what do we need? What have we got? You've got so many environments. You can actually look at so many different ways to join things up differently. And because it's an open kind of world for you, you can join up all sorts of different things without having to go away from Africa, even away from inside a country, actually, for quite a few. So I think you've got actually the world at your feet. And it's hard. I do agree. It needs policies. New Zealand has not had policies until the climate change, and even then it's still never followed up with proper policies to disadvantage oil and gas and coal and to advantage bio. But yeah, you've got it, so long as you can all work together.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for this input. Maybe I'll open up to the audience. Any reaction? Any questions from the audience? Yes, madam, please. Mike?
Thank you. Rocio Diaz Chavez, Deputy Director of Stockholm Environment Institute, Africa Center. Thank you to all the presenters. I'm glad to see people I know there. Kazakhstan, nice to see you there. I put some questions in the discussion, particularly for Dr. Macrae. I think that blue economy should also be part of bioeconomy in general. And I think it is being kept separate for a long time. Do you think this is more like a political issue on oceans rather than thinking more strategically on joining them?
Thank you. So, was the question addressed to Dr. Macrae? So, Dr. Macrae?
Yeah, I just saw the discussion, so I was just about to write a reply. um, so, 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 yeah, I agree, because you can actually mix things up more than you thought you could before. So, I was part of a group called the Bioprocessing Alliance in New Zealand, and we actually had everybody who was researching aquaculture, fishing, agriculture, forestry, horticulture, cropping, you name it, and waste, and also people who managed waste. And we combined lots of things there to make new products, to create new value add, and by that, value add matters. So it's unique. We did, for example, what did we do? We took some lignin and coated wood fibres to make new nets to hang mussels on in aquaculture farms, and then the aquaculture mussels, they took the food out, and the shells that were left we then processed into combinations with plastics to make new products such as packaging or lighting shades or various other things. So yes, you can put it all together. You can be imaginative. I totally agree. And across all of the different biological spheres. Is that what you wanted?
Thank you. I think that answers exactly what I think, because in Africa, it's not just the coastal areas. Of course, there are islands, but of course, we have very important rivers and Lake Victoria plus other lakes that should be integrated with this. There are several examples. Lake Victoria, the use of hyacinth for biofuel production, the use of leather of fish skin to produce leather for other articles. So I think these are areas that are not fully explored for the region. And also, for example, the packaging side that also you mentioned in the presentation, we have seen some examples here that are starting with biopackaging using starch from cassava, for example. But this is very few examples. We would like to see how this grows, because there is really great potential in the region. Yes, thank you.
Very much for your question. Thank you. For your remark. Prof, maybe to recenter again the discussion. This session is really about advancing bioeconomy research. And therefore, I have to ask this question about what is the comparative advantage that Africa has compared to the rest of the world?
It is a good question. African continent, we are endowed with a lot of natural resources. Mm-hmm. And the African continent also we're endowed with actually it's a young continent, they call it.
Yeah, by the way, you're right. I saw the first slide of Dr. McRae where he said that fossil fuel industry is controlled, where with bioeconomy you have no control. It's really liberal. Anybody can move to bioeconomy and do his own business, especially for the youth.
Yeah. So for us, we have the natural resources, quite diverse, mm-hmm. And some of them are quite unique for African continent. Mm-hmm. So it means that we can produce the bio-based products which are unique. And if you have something unique, you control the market.
Yeah.
And we have it's a young continent, so we have the power for the youth. If we can integrate them in the bioeconomy, which means they will be able to be part of the bioeconomy advancement. And then in Africa, we can say we have think tanks. We have people who are learned, who can think, and they come up with something customized and tailor-made and pathway towards the bioeconomy. And for me, I'm excited about it. From this presentation, you could see that in Africa, people have brains who can think, and they come up with something which we can be able to spearhead it, mm-hmm. and be part of this bioeconomy industrial revolution.
Dr. Mutuku, do you want to say something about it?
Of course, advantages include the great biodiversity that exists, and like Prof has just highlighted, the fact that we have a youth bulge. But most importantly, that these youth are increasingly very well educated and digitally aware. So we can develop products that we can leverage this digital knowledge to enable us to leapfrog. And if you have a digital platform, for example, a very good pipeline, then it is going to enable you to create trademarks of these new things that you're discovering from your unexplored biodiversity. So, I mean, you're going to benefit both ways. But this, Africa itself presents opportunities to form partnerships with people, with other continents who have already been there and done that. But these partnerships are going to revolve around the opportunities that we are finding within Africa. So, for example, utilization of those new bioresources that we are going to be discovering, etc., etc. But even now, like right now, Africa has opportunities for trade partnerships that can push the continent to trial free trade agreements and these type of things that are opportunities for the continent to develop bioeconomy products that can be adopted within those developed economies. You see now buzzwords within Europe and the US is circularity. Nobody is interested anymore in wastage. So if we develop those products here and we can show traceability where it is coming from and how it is produced, is it ethical production? Is there fair? Yes, and is there fair compensation for the product? You're going to get a very, very big market here.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Tesfaye, Ethiopia is the second largest, in terms of population, country in Africa. And certainly it has also a very vibrant youth.
Okay.
How do you see bioeconomy in Ethiopia?
Yeah, thank you. I fully agree with both speakers before me. That can be considered as a comparative advantage for each country in the region. So as I've already mentioned, I mean, the underutilized bioresources we have and also the agricultural potential we have, the land mass, especially the arable land mass and diverse agroecology that ranges from lower altitude, which is 120 below sea level in Dalul Depression in Ethiopia, which harbors unique microorganism with unique product with industrial application, ranges to Ras Dashen mountain, which is 40,000 above sea level, would be like a great advantage for the country and also for the region. Apart from this, as you have already mentioned, trainable youth and graduates can be considered as really a workforce. Of course, the booming population would create a good local market for bioeconomy product or byproduct that's sent to the market as a consumer. And of course, geographic proximity to export markets in EU and the Middle East would also be considered as another advantage. The regional bodies like SECO, IGAD, COMESA, and name it, would be another advantage. Of course, the presence of regional centers like BECA and also ECPA and IRLI, what they are doing in terms of R&D for bioeconomy can be considered as an advantage to make use of product out of bioeconomy to transform the national and regional economy. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So any other reactions from the audience? Do we have question on the chat? Discussion? No. Q&A? No. Yeah. Any reaction from the chat? Yeah. Yes, Prof. Then you are requested to stand when you ask question. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Dan Masiga, and Just a question maybe to any member of the panel. How do we overcome the question of economies of scale? When you talk about distributed bioeconomy, it's in most cases going to be small scale. I think you can use ICT platforms to create to scale things up, but it's going to be a challenge. So I'd like to hear some conversation around that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I hope you heard the question. So who want to start? Prof?
The issue of economy of scale.
Yeah.
On the bio-based products.
Yeah.
To me, I think we don't need to invent the wheel. The economy of scales are known in the economics, and what we can do, we can customize the bio-based product depending on the types of different bio-based products, so that we can be able to achieve the economies of scale. To me, I'm not thinking that is something which is we need a rocket science on it, because already people are in the economy world, they are doing it. So for us, we need to find a way to be able to have that economy of scale. We can learn and customize from what already exists. If it is something brand new, then we need to think too much.
So it's more about the demand and the supply.
Yeah.
If something is proven useful, it will fly on its own.
Yes.
Thank you. Maybe let me just stick for two more questions from maybe Prof. McRae. Doctor, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to give you another example of, because it's truly distributed. So, for an example, in New Zealand, if we've got big plantation forests, and so what they do is they chop down the plantation forests and they truck the logs to a factory somewhere or to the wharf and send it to China or somewhere else. And they do a lot of trucking around of logs, etc., and then there's a bit of waste left. Well, our concept was, well, why don't we just make specific small woodlots, come along, crop them just as if they're a maize crop, so just chop the whole thing, well, not quite the same, but chop the whole thing down, process it on the spot, get rid of the water, dry it on the spot in the farm, and then you might go with two or three other farmers and you might start making packaging that uses the fibers from it and some of the other materials and so on. So that to me is distributed, and you don't have to do scale, because if you have a number of people doing them, then you've got your scale in a different way, if you see what I'm saying. And you get more of the wealth coming back to the people who started the value chain. Okay. Hope that
maybe I think, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Let me pick maybe some few questions from the chat box. There's one question saying that, given that the section is on advancing bioeconomy research in Africa, perhaps we could hear more about ongoing scientific research. I think it's just a question, an open question for. Do you think you want to like to say something? For instance, in your field, yeah, what is really ongoing?
So, for example, what we are doing at WEB right now, and this is research work that is project-based. So we are developing biopesticides, and I was very happy to interact with Professor Subramanian, and in his discussion with me, he was telling me about his work on biopesticides using pathogenic fungi, fungi living inside and causing damage in the insects. Not doing similar work, but using viruses. So there is great overlap between what I'm doing and what you do. It's just like a microorganism is different. Now, this is one of the research that you need to control the insect population for us to achieve a certain level of productivity in the farmer field. Now, I know there are other research now, not within our institute, people working on, bioplastics, people working on to develop textiles and other things like that.
Thank you. So, Prof, I know you have a lot of experience in mushroom farming. When I was reading your resume, I saw that you wrote 2 books in that field. But since you are a VC of a university, the Nelson Mandela University, so what is going on in terms of research by economy?
Maybe I need like 1 hour to talk about it, but let me summarize. We are doing research which is learned in bioeconomy technologies. For example, on this ending Bioinnovative project, we actually developed an organic fertilizer which is fortified by the organic nitrogen.
Okay.
And we launched sometimes in July, and it is doing so well in the region where we are growing the avocados. So you could see research already is ongoing, and this is something natural, and we actually planning to put a patent on it. We, in the other Bioinnovative phase 1, we also, I know like here in Kenya, they are growing sisal.
Okay.
That big pineapple after
that looks like aloe.
Yeah. So we actually we are able to produce the mushrooms out of that big pineapple. We call it sisal ball. And it was for the first time we actually filed a patent on it. And the amount of mushroom produced from that waste is very high, and the mushrooms are very big and so nutritious.
Oh.
So something that is also happening in terms of research. Also, at Nelson Mandela, we have discovered the omega-3 supplement, which is plant-based. And we are actually, we have a minimum viable product. What we are doing now is we have come with a design of container design factories. We as researchers, normally we work in small bottles. But what we thought, why don't we miniature the expected industry in just a 40-feet container? So we have started with that one, with the whole production line. So when you are inviting an investor, you come and show him or her what is actually being done at a miniature. Mm-hmm. So I think that one is going to revolutionize the way we can put our results into action.
So
more realistic.
So it seems that there are so many exciting research that are actually taking place at the university, and I'm sure that's also what my colleague Mutuku also mentioned. But I have a question. In fact, it came right away when I was thinking about it. Another participant said, "Dear speaker, what about the indigenous techniques in African bioresource utilization? Where do we place the whole bioeconomy research in the context of indigenous knowledge in Africa? Where would you place it?" Maybe let me take the question to testify. You can unmute. You can unmute your mic again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, as I've already mentioned, we have huge biodiversity, and that huge biodiversity actually connected with the diverse culture we have, and the diverse culture we have also embedded with several indigenous knowledge, and we usually start and explore potential products starting from the indigenous knowledge that exists in the community. So there are several plant species identified by local people, and there are also traditional foods there. And with the traditional foods, there are also microbes, and we need to characterize and study those strains and upgrade or scale it up to industrial level. So those strains can be utilized to make an efficient industrial processes. Just an example, we have traditional beverages, and in those traditional beverages, you'll find unique microbes involved in the fermentation process. And we are currently characterizing those strains and identify efficient strain for ethanol production at industrial level. Apart from that, we have also working towards identifying those strains from those beverages for degrading cellulose. So those kind of research actually based on traditional indigenous knowledge. So there are also cosmetics and medicinal applications used by indigenous knowledge. So we all start from there. So in that case, the access and benefit sharing issue and the IP issue should be really considered very well. But things usually start from there and base itself on indigenous knowledge.
Thank you very much. You know, I know, for instance, in Africa, for many countries, when you go, for instance, in West Africa, using, for instance, cassava is fermented before it is consumed, and it is shown that this fermentation process help actually to control the level of aflatoxin. I know when you go, for instance, in Ethiopia, the process of producing this injera is also through fermentation. Even the honey kind of wine is called touch also goes through that same process. So there is this kind of indigenous knowledge which needs to be actually considered as well. But I want to just take a question to Dr. McRae and ask her, for instance, because I saw that she has a very prolific resume and she has a lot of experience. She's an FAO reference person. So if you were to give an advice or some sort of, like, if you have to do it in Africa, given that it's a new continent, I mean, the field of bioeconomy is nascent here, what would be the key area that you would be, focusing so that we do it right?
That's a tough one, isn't it? You've got food, and I know everyone always talks about food separately, and I'm probably going to do the same, but I think you do have to put your food waste, the materials that grow with your food, and prepare for your food. But I would, in terms of indigenous materials and indigenous knowledge, and I would really leverage it, really look at it really hard. I would go into quite a big lot of discovery mode, because a lot of things that people have known for a long time have a really good basis in fact somewhere in there, and people don't always know what it is, but they often know that such and such will, for example, grow or live better here than there. And the thing that you're going to have to worry about, and keep this in mind, so I would be doing this with everything, is imagine 2050 and imagine it's 2.5 degrees warmer. So what does that mean about what you will need? And that might be a focus. And that's both for making products and for food and for growing things in general, living things. So I don't know if that really helps a lot, but that's probably what I would think about.
That's a very good input. So what would you say for the same question? What are the key areas that, if we want to advance this field of bioeconomy, where should we really place our energy?
To me, we have the Africa Agenda 2063, and that it has I think 5 pillars. One of the pillars is Power Africa. So it means already, if we are to think of the area to focus, we go. All the issues relating to the bioenergy or the biofuels, we want to power Africa. And then number 2, one of the pillar, it is on Feed Africa.
Okay.
So it means all the issues of food and the feed and for the livestock and also for human being, that is an area of growth which you actually can focus. And then number 3, one of the pillar, it is the industrialized Africa. So as we are here now, we are talking about the bioeconomy based industries. So for us, I think that one can be the good areas to be able to focus.
Energy, food, and industry.
Yes, and also the other one, it is on. They are saying that the migration of the youth from the village to the cities, it is irreversible.
Okay.
So it means we can focus on the biocities, that you have the biocities, you produce the products which are biological origin, and this can come from the plants anyway. The plants are biological factories, and even other microorganisms are biological factories. So if we use them within the cities, how can we produce, for example, vegetables within the cities? I think those areas to me, I saw that. Because the other area, it is on the fourth industrial revolution. That one, of course, it touches the issues of artificial intelligence, the issues of big data analytics, the blockchain, the machine learning. But the fourth industrial revolution also anchors on biotechnology. It is the tool for bioeconomy.
It's true. And then as we speak about all this bioeconomy and biotechnology, is there a centralized platform or a centralized framework where all these innovation, all these discoveries are placed so that they could be used or standardized? Because sometimes, I don't know, but let's say the process of fermentation of certain foods, it might be done differently, or it might require some certain process to be done. Is there a framework where these technologies are grouped? And is there a way to standardize them so that whatever come out from the bioeconomy processes can be commercialized safely without any challenge in Africa?
We need what we were discussing yesterday. We have the EAC strategy for bioeconomy. I think for us in the EAC, that could be a starting point. Because then we could do the mapping, you have develop the frameworks, the whole industry can actually have some frameworks on it. So right now it is so fragmented.
Okay.
So if you talk, for example, of the indigenous technology, I mean, that is one of our entry points, the herbal industry. The Chinese, the Indians, they are actually exploiting the herbal industry tremendous because they have some frameworks where you can be able to do the herbal industry. We need it in Africa, and we have, if you go to the Maasai, they have the unique herbals. They eat a lot of meat, but have you had the Maasai with the gout? They use the herbs.
Yeah.
So why don't we commercialize such indigenous knowledge, which we have been practicing for many years?
Thank you.
I think to start to to properly commercialize this indigenous knowledge is first, we have to go back to the holders of this information, the people with the information, and sit down with them, curate this thing, archive it in a future-proof format.
Okay.
You see, the reason I'm saying this is one time when I was a small boy, I was walking in the forest with my grandmother, and she was showing me various trees that you can tap the sap if you get bitten by, say, a black mamba or this type of snake or that type of snake. This goes back to the issue of knowledge or bioproducts being very, very specific to a certain region. So it's likely that, and you see, maybe she was trying to transfer some knowledge that I, at the time, didn't get, and now it's lost, you see. Okay. So if we go back and properly curate this information, digitize it, and now put it...
So it means that as we speak, there is no repository of all these...
I would be surprised if we have, and large enough for us to cover everything that we know exists.
Okay, this brings me to my next question, which is there is there a risk? I recall when they were to mention about the use of nuclear power for African countries, there was a lot of concern about how this nuclear power could be handled by some of our government when the facilities are not there, and it might lead to disasters like Chernobyl and others. So is there a risk in using this bioeconomy or biological resources, for food production, for energy? Is there somewhere where we need to control the risks?
Yes. Somehow, yes. Why are we putting so much worries on the bio-based resources? And those bio-based resources are part and parcel of our life, right? For example, if you go to Burundi, they have this kind of, is it the cassava something?
Mm-hmm.
And you could see them traveling with it for many years. They don't know about the risk. Because, they have their proper way, the way they make it.
Okay.
So, to me, I think we don't need we don't need to worry much about the risk of it. But what we need to know is to be able to standardize.
But using microorganism, for instance, to produce certain kind of food or products, there might be some enzymes or some maybe toxic. Don't you think there is a need to create sort of like a framework or a standard where these nuisance or risk could be basically minimized? Or is it the same as any other process of production?
That's why I said that we don't need to worry much, because if you go to the villages, the local brews, they drink it since when they are young until they are old. But what we need is just to standardize.
Okay.
To put some framework, because now we are going to, for a business, we need to standardize the protocols, the procedures, maybe the packaging, and then off we go.
But then how do you do this on a continent where we know, for instance, if you take Africa, it's a large space. You have the Francophone on one hand, you have the Anglophone, the Lusophones, and all that. And for an ordinary technology, let's say something that was invented in Kenya, patented in Kenya, to take it to another country might take forever, might take a lot of processes for what is already existing. How can that happen, for instance, in the case of bioeconomy, the new discoveries that are coming now in the field of bioeconomy? What's your insight?
We need to put some frameworks so that we'll be able to tackle these bioresource products. Just put a framework so that we share. Others, if we are conservative, that this is mine, will not reach nowhere, because the knowledge is changing and the opportunities are coming up. So we need to put some frameworks and be able to share what we have for the benefit of the African continent, and be able even to export.
Thank you. So,
I agree absolutely with what Prof is sharing. But we can also mitigate this risk by proper education. When we tell people education, communication, and outreach, if we tell people that there is this product, the risks exist, but they are minimal compared to the advantages that you're going to be deriving from utilization of this product. People are generally logical, and they're going to accept these products. Plus, you can, for any bioproduct, again, going hand in hand with an effective communication strategy, is that to find people who are early adopters. And you use, when you're marketing your product to other people, you say, actually, so-and-so, this number of people are already using it, and they have validated the product, and now we can say that these risks that you think exist are minimal. Like, for example, there was a lot of hullabaloo around the vaccinations, the COVID-19 vaccinations, but you see, sensitization and science has proved those risks to be either minimal or some of them have
Not
actually
existent,
been disproved completely. So you only need to engage your customers, because first, to develop all these bioproducts you're talking about, you go to the customer, the end consumer, and you ask them what is the need. Sometimes you can be addressing a need that exists in the market, but other times you can start by addressing the need that has been brought to you by the consumer. So what would be calling a demand-led type of an approach.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have another question. Maybe that is now for Dr. McRae. So in all this bioeconomy, which means that using bioresources, how does, for instance, Convention on Biodiversity apply? Let's say, for instance, we discover there is a certain microorganism in Tanzania that is indigenous in Tanzania, and now it's so important, so useful for humanity, but then there is Biodiversity Convention, which says that we need to own or protect, biodiversity. How does it apply? How does those, for instance, apply in the context of the expansion of bioeconomy?
Another hard one. This has been quite a rapidly changing world, and a lot of it is as much to do with sharing of benefit as well. So, and you have to make sure that you don't, in terms of the biodiversity, I mean, I can think of some things. There's a particular plant that makes a very high value bunch of chemicals, and suddenly it was discovered and identified, and so lots of people went and just actually harvested the plant, and now it's endangered. So you don't want to do that. But I don't think there's actually any real answers except for sharing in benefits for where that indigenous material is. And often people think microbes are indigenous to their area, but sometimes they're not. So in New Zealand, people only settled it in the 1300s, and so no one before that. And we still don't know most of the microbes in New Zealand. But we haven't a clue what a lot of them are. And people have been screening these for a long time, from the hot pools, from the cold parts, for all sorts of places, salty. I'm sure there's lots of discovery, and microbes evolve as well. So they mutate and evolve, and if they find a new environment, so there are microbes living on the plastics in the ocean and degrading them. And they didn't exist the plastics didn't exist in the ocean before. So I don't quite know how to answer you. I don't think there is an answer. I think
I'm just trying to maybe take it from the example that we discovered an insect in Kenya that can cure, let's say, cancer. But now that insect has to be taken to South America for mass production. Then the Biodiversity Convention now
why does it have to? Why does it have to go to South America? Why does it? Why can't you?
I'm just giving an example, because the insect might be endemic in Kenya, but has never been reported on another continent. It could be New Zealand. It could be, but
no. But you finish.
Yes. No. Okay, you can come in.
So for me, as soon as you said there was, let's just take that scenario. There's an insect living in Kenya. It's indigenous to Kenya. It's not found somewhere else, and you found it has a really high benefit to humans in some medical application. Let's just say. Then I would be sitting in Kenya saying, how can I process this insect and farm this insect in Kenya? What are the things I need to do at small scale to start with, because you don't start going out massive scales anyway, and build it up in Kenya? What would be the problem in trying to do that?
Okay, thank you. So we have approximately 5 minutes. Maybe let me give open a question to the audience. If there any reaction, yes, Dr. Liz.
Hello, my name is Liz Nganga from Misipe. The question I still have is this. In order to advance the bioeconomy in Africa, what kind of knowledge base do we need? and what tools and resources do we need for it?
Thank you. Who wants to start? What kind of knowledge base do we need, and what kind of resources do we need?
I think first, like we were saying, we need to tap into this traditional knowledge.
Okay.
And map it across the market here being the continent, and digitize it or make it ready make it future-proof. Yeah. That's one. Yeah. Two, it is likely that some of these products, like we've been saying, are only usable or utilizable within a small region. So we do not necessarily should be thinking about massive industrial scale production. So that way, that local knowledge that has been collected about that specific product is only localized within a small region. I think that's where we start.
Thank you. We want to try also that question?
Just a little bit. I just want to add on the issues of the infrastructure. Or now the infrastructure which we shall need will be tailor-made according to what we actually need. Because like in Africa, there's a tendency of people buying some infrastructure, some equipment, which after a while they turn to be a white elephants. So we need to have some infrastructure which we need actually to support the bioeconomy research or research and development.
Thank you. Thank you.
And along the value chain, you also need to develop some efficient innovation systems. And also to have the knowledge and the skills of our people, which they target on the bioeconomy.
Tesfai? Dr. Tesfai?
Yeah, thank you. I also agree with the suggestion, but we need to focus on multidisciplinary knowledge. So I think we are more stick to a traditional way of thinking and also a traditional way of doing research. So we need to get out from there and focus on multidisciplinary research like biotechnology and related science. Apart from this, we need also to think in convergence. The life science and also the physical science, like the computer science, physics, and chemistry should come together to address a specific challenge and develop a product. In terms of infrastructure, we need infrastructure to carry out genomics research and also other biochemical research. So in combination with all this, we can really promote bioeconomy in the region. And in terms of infrastructure, I mean, it would be very difficult to have infrastructure everywhere. So we need to focus on a core laboratory establishment, be it at a national level or at regional level, like what we have, what we call like BECA. So that's what I would like to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tesfai. So, Dr. Macrae?
Yeah, absolutely agree with the last speaker, because that's what we've had to do in New Zealand, and we do it globally, for example. So you don't buy a lot of big kit, you go and use someone else's big kit. You might share who's going to buy the big kit. You need really good collaborators, so it's a mindset. You need to be able to work together across a whole range of disciplines. We have our National Science Challenges actually mix some disciplines up. Deliberately, and we make sure they're mixed up deliberately. And you need people who are agile thinkers and are curious. You know, they ask questions, they're curious, but they can also have some self-discipline. So you need to think global, apply it locally, and go back global. So absolutely agree with everything that was said.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So today I'm very excited and very honored to have been given this opportunity to moderate this session. So we have come now to the end of this session, and before that, I have to give the closing statement to Hon Prof. Ruth Onyango. Maybe let me just give an introduction. Ruth Onyango is founder of Rural Outreach Africa, ROA, an organization addressing rural poverty, food and nutrition insecurity. She is also the founder and editor-in-chief of the African Journal of Food, Agriculture, Nutrition and Development, ANGFund. As a 2017 Africa Food Prize winner, Prof. Onyango was recognized for her relentless efforts to feed the continent at grassroots level. She's the board chair of Sasakawa Africa Association, an organization that works in Africa with Nippon Foundation, funding for the past 35 years to uplift the living standards of smallholder farmers. She serves as a member of Bioinnovate Program Advisory Committee, PAC, among other regional international boards. So, Prof. Onyango, you have the floor for closing remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Salu, and good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, not there with you guys, but I've been sitting here in my office, really enjoying the discussion. And thank you for great moderation, Dr. Salu. And also to just thank everyone who's been on the panel. Really amazing discussion, and to also particularly thank Dr. McRae all the way from New Zealand. I think we have a difference of 12 hours or so, just sharing with us what's going on in New Zealand and giving specific examples, and many of
Prof?
which are actually, yes.
Excuse me, Prof. We cannot hear you well. Maybe it's because of the headset. Maybe you can use just the onboard set. Yeah.
Actually, the headset actually help. Can you hear me now?
Not so well. You can just unplug it. Unplug the
Can you
headset.
hear me now?
We can hear you. Yeah. Did you unplug the headset? You could just unplug it and then use the.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, you can carry on.
I can't hear you.
It's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
too
we can
bad.
hear you.
Yeah. I was just thanking you for great moderation, and thanking everyone for the great discussion, and also for the great participation by the audience. What I got out of here really for me is that this conference is coming on the heels of the UN conference on food systems, and also which was touching also on the SDGs, and what is so important right now is the partnerships that we have to partner. We have to partner in countries, we have to partner on the continent, and we also have to partner with people outside of the continent. And what does the bioeconomy do for us? The bioeconomy makes Africans look inward. Bioeconomy makes the researchers want to discover what we have always had indigenously, culturally. The bioeconomy wants to make us be proud of what we have. And this conference is coming in the middle of the corona, which actually has made everyone look inward. And the things coming from outside are not necessarily relevant to us. They are not necessarily useful to us. And I liked what Professor Mshandete said. Look, we have brains. We can do research. We should be proud of what we have. But we have a huge youth bulge, which everybody has talked about, particularly Dr. Mutuku. But that youth badge for us is not relevant if we don't educate them, if we don't provide them with opportunities. Otherwise, they'll be a burden, they'll be a challenge, and they want to be proud of their continent. And so this bioeconomy for me actually just makes a sense. It's timely, it's transformative. We can connect our research with what we have on the continent, with our communities, with the indigenous knowledge that we have always had, and what is even now more relevant during this corona. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's a great opportunity for us, and everyone just talked about something that's relevant. That as a member of PAC for the last 4 years or so, I've learned a lot. But at the same time, I've visited countries, and what is going on in each and every one of these countries, whether it is Ethiopia, whether it is Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, where we have been. It's just amazing what this continent has. Now, what I didn't hear much of was the connection with the policy. And as researchers, scientists, we talk nicely. We are the top brains in our countries. We have all this knowledge. But of what relevance is it if it is not taken on politically and made use of? Of what relevance is it if borders are not opened for us, people, collaborate easily, for scientists to be able to move their products, for support, and for us actually to be able to come together, and for markets to be opened? Look, compare the African continent, 54 countries, with China, which is one huge market. One huge market. Clearly, they do much better than we do because they don't have those borders. So as we finish, let's think of how can we as scientists make the case as we do our work locally. How can we make the case to policy makers to understand what we are doing? And maybe someday we shall have all policy makers who are scientists and who understand what we have been doing. I'm sorry if the audio has not been very good, but I've enjoyed this and I just want to bring this to a close and to just thank everyone. Mr. Moderator, thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, guys. Asante sana. Asante.
Yeah.
It was a great session.
Do the song.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen,